Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the news roundup here on iThemes Training. It's December 2022, and we have a lot to talk about today in WordPress news. Many things have happened just in the last 24 hours with a vulnerability in WordPress core that is going to start our news today. We're going to start with news on security as soon as I get the slides to advance. All right, so you, like me, may have awoken this morning to many emails in your inbox from every WordPress installation on which you have iThemes Security installed, reporting a vulnerability in WordPress core version 6.1.1 and earlier. And it's true. There is a vulnerability, technically, in WordPress 6.1.1 and earlier. Like, it's all of the WordPress is vulnerable. So this happened because a CVE, which is the technical term for when a vulnerability is reported, stands for Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures, except that should be spelled correctly, was published. This was quickly added, as you can tell, published by WP Scan, which is the centralized location where WordPress security issues are reported and managed. iThemes Security uses the WP Scan database to run its security scan and to alert you to these vulnerabilities as they're published. And this hit the WP Scan registry on yesterday, December the 13th. So here's the deal. The vulnerability is centered around the pingbacks function, which I'm going to stop right here and look over at the chat. Is anybody in the chat using pingbacks? Is anybody using pingbacks? Yeah, maybe by accident, right? I mean, so pingbacks, if you're not aware, this goes back to the early, the Cenozoic age of blogging, where blogs could talk to each other. And if your blog got a mention, you get a pingback to your blog, right? So it was a way that blogs sort of interconnected together and blah, blah, blah. It's like, since WordPress evolved into a full content management system, not just a blogging platform, pingbacks really aren't a thing anymore. So there is a setting under settings and discussion where you can turn off pingbacks. It's all related into the XML RPC function that, pardon me, it's all related to the XML RPC function that is there are lots of security issues that have been tied to XML RPC. And so, generally speaking, if you have iThemes Security Pro installed, it recommends disabling XML RPC unless you know that you need it. It's just a way into WordPress that if you're not using it, it's a door that should be closed. So really the only thing that uses XML RPC much at a high level is the Jetpack plugin. And so if you're not using Jetpack, it should be closed. I'm going to give you some steps to take in just a minute, but this issue is not new. Like, this wasn't just discovered. This was talked about 6 years ago at the core level, and it was just never addressed because it's really not an impact. Even if somebody might be able to manipulate things, you can't even do anything with it once if you happen to get access. It is incredibly low impact. So anyway, there's a blog post down. It's linked from within the CVE here from the WP Scan vulnerability. There is a blog article that says this, and this is the source of the CVE entry was a blog post that the blog post itself even said, we could not generically identify ways to leverage this behavior to take over vulnerable instances without relying on other vulnerable services. Translation, you can't do it with anything with this, even or unless there's something else on the site that is vulnerable. Okay, this is anyway. And this is in the article, because of its low impact as is, its prior publication, and the need to chain it to additional vulnerabilities in third-party software, we believe this release won't endanger WordPress users and can only help them harden their instances. But they still entered a CVE in the WP Scan database, which sets off a whole chain of other things. So the article says, it's really not going to hurt anybody, but we're still going to put this CVE in there, which is going to, cause plugins like iThemes Security to freak out. It's frustrating, right? It's very frustrating. So what do you need to do? Number one, of course, as always, make sure your themes and plugins are up to date and that no vulnerable software exists on your website. I mean, you should be doing that anyway, right? Because this new vulnerability isn't, I mean, it can't do anything unless there's some other piece of vulnerable software on your website. Second of all, use the settings inside of iThemes Security to completely disable XML-RPC if you're not using it, and you're probably not unless you're using Jetpack. I cannot think of a single other thing in all the years I've used WordPress that uses XML-RPC that I use. So it's just Jetpack. If you have to have Jetpack, if XML-RPC has to be enabled, then just go under settings and discussion and turn off pingbacks, and you're okay. If you're using one of the plugins like disable comments that takes out the commenting feature and the discussion menu item isn't even there, it's turned off pingbacks anyway. So it's just, yeah. Paul, you are correct. Paul mentioning in the chat that the official WordPress iPhone app that edits your WordPress site does use XML-RPC. That's correct. I have never used that app. Like if I want to log into my website on my phone, I log into my website on my phone. So it's, yeah. Poll. Does anybody in the chat use the actual official WordPress app? Dave is asking about the WooCommerce app. I'm not sure about that. You'd have to research that, Dave. I'm not aware. I don't use that app, and so I can't tell you specifically from personal if it uses XML-RPC or not. Deb, so if pingbacks are off and XML-RPC is on, that's still circumvent. Yes, because it's related to pingbacks. If you'll read the article that the CVE at this link links to, it will explain how this is exploited and what people have to do. And anyway, it explains the whole thing. So also, obviously, make sure your core WordPress software is set to update to minor version releases so that, I mean, hopefully they're going to fix this, right? So they're going to drop a 6.1.2, and your WordPress by default should automatically update to 6.1.2 when that becomes available. Like, I'm not losing sleep over this, like, at all. The worst, you know, the biggest deal about this to me is all of the emails, right? So why did I get a site scan email from all of my sites if it's not a big deal? Well, because iThemes Security uses WP Scan for the site scan feature, and the WP Scan is the place, it's the clearinghouse for all the vulnerabilities in the WordPress ecosystem. So it's the correct thing for us to use. So when a new CVE is entered, iThemes Security says, do you have this on your site? If you do, I'm going to send you an email. And that happens automatically without human interaction, so you get a quick notification. So when WP Scan added the CVE for 6.1.1, it triggered the site scan, and iThemes Security did what it was supposed to do. So what do we do to stop the emails about this issue? And there's really two options. iThemes Security continues to send twice a day those vulnerabilities. You know, if you have site scan running twice a day, it's going to find that vulnerability. It's going to send you an email unless you disable that vulnerability in iThemes Security. And you'd have to do that on every site, which is not a lot of fun. There's a doc right here to explain how to do that. It's really simple, but if you manage lots of sites like I do, I mean, I'm not going to log into 100+ websites and disable this, right? So here's what I did. I just set up an email filter that said if the email has the if the email has the content this, which I just copied and pasted out of the vulnerability, just delete it. And so I'm not going to be bothered by those emails anymore. I'm not worried about this vulnerability. It's not a big deal for me. And so, you know, hopefully they'll patch it in 6.1.2. So I'm going to pause right there because this is a big deal. I know some of you popped on just for this. Any other questions in the chat about this before we move on to other news? Did we cover this well enough? Everybody okay on this? If you have specific questions or other concerns, email support@ithemes.com, and yeah, just ask, you know, in a security ticket, you know, if there's anything else you need to do. Okay. All right. I'm not losing sleep over this. This is okay. Let's move on, shall we, to news from Core. Let's talk about news from Core. There are no more security updates for WordPress 3.7 to 4.0. These are versions of WordPress that have been around for many, many, many years. And with every version of WordPress, the Core team has actually been backporting those security patches all the way back to WordPress 3.7, which is like 10+ years ago. It's been a long time. So you can imagine the amount of work that's involved in that. And so they said, no, look, before WordPress 4, like, it's end of life. We're done. We're not going to patch this anymore. So December the 1st, the final releases for these versions were dropped. So that's it, no more. So if you're running WordPress 3.7 to 4.0, please update your WordPress. It's a very small percentage of users that are using these ancient versions. Whenever it's possible, WordPress users should be running 6.1.1 on PHP 8 or later. So now that the security team is not backporting the oldest versions, that lets them spend their time on things that, matter. So there you go. WordPress 6.2, there's still no dates. Nothing has been published since our last month. The alpha was released back on October 18th, and there's no further dates that have been announced. So we'll get to 6.2 at some point next year. I would imagine it'll be in the first quarter, probably toward the end of the first quarter, thereabouts. So there we go. All right. Something else that happened on the core side, WordPress proper has launched a developer blog. Isn't that interesting? It's taken all this time for there to be an actual true WordPress developers blog. There hasn't been one. There's been lots of core blogs, but no blog specifically aimed at people who are developing for WordPress. So one of the big picture goals that Josepha Hayden-Shumfosi, who is the executive director of the WordPress project, identified for 2022 was to create developer-focused communications on the WordPress.org site, and they've done that. So our friend Birgit Pauli-Hawk has said that staying on top of new features coming to the WordPress open source project is one of the main barriers expressed by developers. So Birgit, we've had here talking about Gutenberg. She runs the Gutenberg Times. She's an altogether awesome person, and she's right. It's a barrier to entry for a lot of folks who want to learn WordPress. Here's some official now developer blog. That's a good thing. Content on this blog is going to be focused on updates applicable to theme and plugin devs, agency devs, high-level code, and software topics. So this is developer oriented. And, if you like the code, check it out. It's out there now. There's a link right there. Okay, let's turn our attention to the block editor and a couple of drops of Gutenberg that happened over the last month. Gutenberg 14.6 was released on November the 23rd with several pretty cool new additions. First is a variation picker to the group block placeholder. So when you drop in a group block, or your blocks that are grouped, you get this new modal that asks you to pick a layout, which kind of looks like this. Isn't that nice? So these blocks are all together in one spot, or are they columns, or are they stacked, or how's it going to look? Pretty cool. Nice extra little UI update. We also now get some changes to the way the nav block works with the list of menu items and sub-menu items. And it's really nice, actually. We tried to work with this block for our WordCamp Birmingham site, and it's a nightmare. And this is so much better of a UI. We can drag things around over in the sidebar. We can add a sub-menu just like that. You click it, you can do things and move various things around. Isn't that nice? So it's just a nicer UI. It's much simpler to use than what used to be there in the nav block. There's also a new option that when you get into the spacing of blocks, which is one of the newer additions to the block editor, where you have, margins, padding and so forth, it's sometimes hard to see what you're working with because the block toolbar would be in the way and it was hard to see what your spacing was. So they've changed that so that the block toolbar that pops in when you insert a block or you've selected a block, it's going to disappear when you get into the spacing settings. It shows you a shaded area that for this to represent the spacing that's being created, and it lets you to focus on the content. It looks kind of like this. So if you were to click on this header before, above here, you would see like the block toolbar. Now, when you move over here to this dimensions area where padding and margin is, it disappears, and now we just show a shaded, to let you see what's, how much the margin is. I like that. I think it's a great feature. You can also now, this is pretty cool, transform a paragraph into a heading by a keyboard shortcut. Now, before you could mouse over it and choose the heading or change paragraph to heading, then you had to choose H1, H2, H3. Now you can just click on a paragraph and do Control Option 1 through 6 for H1 through H6. Here's how that looks. It's pretty cool. So we're going to click on that. And now look, Control Alt 4, boom. Look at that. Heading 4, heading 2, heading 1, really cool. So if you are a keyboard shortcuts fan, this is going to make a lot of difference. Pretty cool. They've also updated the design of the focal point indicator for the images. They added this focal point, which is really helpful to make sure that like on a thumbnail, the cropping happens at the right point. That's over in the sidebar of the block editor, except it was a teeny tiny little bitty dot. Now they've made it much larger to see. It's much easier to tell what you're focusing on, which is kind of cool. This is a great feature of the block editor. I like it a lot. They've also made some changes to fluid typography with the min-max rule, so it keeps it consistent in various viewports. They also let you define a minimum height for group and the post content block. So there's now a min height area here, which is kind of nice as you're laying out pages. Pretty cool. And last of all, really nifty stuff here. It lets you generate new color palettes with an algorithm. So here's how that looks. There's a randomized color button that, depending on the element that you have selected, it will randomize colors that are in roughly the same family as what you've been working with. So that's kind of cool. And it's just an algorithm that does that. I mean, clearly you can still click on it and change it yourself, but this would just let you click through. I'm sure clients won't abuse that at all. All right, so that was Gutenberg 14.6. Here's Gutenberg 14.7. This rolled out a week ago on December the 7th. Starting off with some improvement in the organization of block settings. So they've added a new tabbed interface, which I actually really like, for the appearance and setting controls of the block. Now, if you've been doing anything with the block editor, you may have noticed how there's lots of settings getting added, and this is starting to get really long and hard to find things and whatnot. So now they've tabbed it to make things a lot easier to define. It is off by default, but you can enable this. It is an experimental feature, which means it might break. They're working on it, but they've rolled it out so you can test it. But you can enable this if you have the Gutenberg plugin active. You go to Gutenberg Experiments, and you can turn on this experimental view of the block setting. So here's what it looks like over here. Click. And we go in, and look, now we have these tabbed settings right here. Isn't that nice? I kind of like that a lot. It makes sense. I mean, the UI makes sense to me. I like what they've done. So pretty cool. They also have added some coloring for if you're using the site editor and you're using WordPress core site editor to make templates. They have differentiated those with color. So now as you look in your list view, you can tell, oh, this header it's a template part. The footer is a template part. It's purple. So you can see it a little bit different. So it's easier at a glance to see things, much like Cadence has changed. For a long time, Cadence has had different colored icons for all the Cadence things to help you see, what's going on a lot easier. You can also, this is really cool. This is probably my favorite addition to Gutenberg this month. There's now an add media option right from the inserter. So instead of, for example, dropping in an image block and then browsing out to your media library, you can just pop open media right there. Here's what I mean. Watch this. So we're going to click our inserter button, and look, there's a media tab right here that lets you browse right there from a media library, right there in the post, and you can just drop it in. Boom, there it is. I like that a lot. That is really, really cool. Now, again, this is not in the core block editor. This is in the Gutenberg plugin. And when we get to 6.2, this will be rolled into core most likely. But all this, you have to have the Gutenberg plugin to see all of these updates that we're talking about in the Gutenberg world here. They've also added an option to see all your pages in the list view for the block list, the page list block. These are minor things they've added here. Layout controls to the children of flex layout blocks. Loading times have been improved by caching the results and querying from the theme.json. They're just improving things around the world. A couple of really good drops from Gutenberg this month. Really good work. All right, let's pick up where we started here with some news from security. This month, we actually added a new vulnerability report today. That was another reason that some of the slides were messed up, because I changed many things like an hour before we started today when the vulnerability report from today dropped. So total, since we last saw each other in the November news roundup, 100 different plugin vulnerabilities have been patched. There are currently 31 active plugin vulnerabilities and 8 theme vulnerabilities have been patched. So 31 is the number to pay attention to, and we've given you in the next couple of slides all those 31 plugins that are currently vulnerable. Big deal. So it's the WooCommerce shipping plugin. That's not the core one. It's an add-on, third party. The WP user plugin, WP social sharing, Quizlord, menu item visibility control, plugin logic, IWS, Eventify, cryptocurrency widgets, product list widget for WooCommerce, bulk delete users by email, image inject, let's recover, WP RSS by publishers, Paytm, QE SEO handyman, pop-up manager, login with Cognito, Supra CSV, advanced booking calendar, Quote-O-Matic, QE SEO handyman. That was pasted twice. My fault. WP autocomplete search, product list widget for WooCommerce, web invoice, WP social sharing, cryptocurrency widgets, let's recover, WP RSS by publishers, and multimedia images. So all those are vulnerable and closed. If you have those plugins on your site, they need to be deleted and just gone. Like, don't just deactivate them, delete them completely. If they're deactivated, the code is still there. The likelihood of it being accessed is low, but the vulnerable code still does exist on the website. The plugin is there, right? So just best to delete that thing. All right, let's move on to a couple of big tech world security incidents. Maybe you heard about this a couple of weeks ago. Rackspace had a big security incident revolving around its hosted exchange environment. December the 2nd, they experienced what they called a cybersecurity incident, which is a nice way of saying they got hacked. The known impact is isolated to that portion of Rackspace and just the hosted exchange. It's not their traditional old school Rackspace email. It's the Microsoft 365 hosted exchange, etc. It's hosted exchange, not 365. Sorry. They assisted customers in opening replacement accounts so they could resume sending and receiving emails, and they have a temporary solution in place. So unclear whether the security accident occurred because of a threat actor or a system malfunction. There's some posts about the incident here. And this is really interesting. In the end of this article in InfoSecurity Magazine, data from Sneak recently suggested that roughly 80% of organizations suffered a severe cloud security incident in the last year. That's pretty amazing. I'm not surprised at all. As more and more of the world goes to cloud, the security issues only increase, and it's a big deal. To me, these days, it's really not if a company has a security problem, it's how quickly they acknowledge it and what their response is to that problem. People are going to have security issues. That's just the world we live in. So how quickly do they tell the world, and how do they respond? You know, what do they do? It sounds to me like Rackspace handled this as well as possible. All right, another issue happened to LastPass, another security incident for LastPass. It didn't directly affect LastPass. It affected a third-party cloud storage service, which they didn't name, that was shared by LastPass and its affiliate GoTo. And that's like GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. That's all one of the affiliates of LastPass. Happened on November the 30th. An unauthorized party using information obtained in the August 22nd, the August 2022 incident with LastPass was able to access certain elements of customers' information. The way LastPass has things set up with their zero knowledge architecture and your master password, LastPass has no way to unencrypt your data. And that's, I saw this happen. I'm a LastPass user. I wasn't worried at all. Wasn't a big deal. LastPass will continue to be attacked just like every other big company. And especially they have a huge target on their backs because they are one of the largest password managers, and lots of sensitive information is there. And so they're going to continue to get these attempts. The good thing is they reported it immediately. And again, all passwords are safe because as long as your master password is secure, if you're a LastPass customer, that's the big deal. All right. Chris is asking, there's basically no way a bad actor could decrypt passwords. They would have to have your master password. And so as long as you're using a complex, unique password that's only used there, you should be in pretty good shape. All right, let's move on to some news from iThemes. We got a lot going on here. Having trouble advancing the slides. There we go. All right, news from iThemes. So next week, I've got a great course coming up called Optimizing Your Starter Site. Last month, we built our starter sites that we would use for a base for developing future client projects. This month, that is next Tuesday and Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. Central each day. We're going to be talking about creating a starter site spin-up process, doing some speed optimizations, preparing a site for the client, and our WordPress website launch process. So this is all about taking the tech that you built last month and putting some systems and processes around it to make it better and use in your business. So that's going to be a lot of fun stuff. If you're a member, you can sign up here. If you are not a member, then there's a special deal going on right now through the end of the year where you can get $200 off. It's basically half price of the year of iThemes training for new members. iThemes training membership gives you access to me every week in office hours. We do an hour every week of Ask Me Anything. It also gives you access to the Fly business training and our monthly 4-hour premium event. You can also have access to the full iThemes training library. So go to ithemes.com/training if you'd like that access. Here's webinars we have coming up. Office hours tomorrow, of course, optimizing your starter site that I mentioned next week. Another episode of office hours on Thursday. Only one webinar the final week of the month because of the holidays. That will be the Thursday following Thursday the 29th with office hours there. Plugin Roundup for 2023 coming up on January the 3rd, and office hours again. News Roundup is scheduled for January 27th. You can register now for all the plugin roundups and news roundups for next year by going to training.ithemes.com. Those webinars are there. We've set up the plugin roundup and news roundup to be registered once for all. I think that's done correctly, so should work. And you don't have to keep registering for these monthly webinars like this. That's a lot of fun. All right, let's talk about Cadence, shall we? We all love Cadence. Cadence has they're celebrating 200,000 active installations. How about that? The Cadence theme on the WordPress.org repository has recorded 200,000 active installations in record time. Cadence as a theme is only 2 years old, y'all, and 200,000 installs. Absolutely amazing. About a year ago, we celebrated Cadence reaching 100,000. That kind of growth, it's just, you don't see that in WordPress. It's just been explosive growth. By the way, I just saw something, I don't have a slide for this, but I just saw something in our internal Slack from a member of the Cadence team asking, if you're not a member of the Cadence Facebook group, it's called the Web Creator. If you just search Cadence WP in Facebook, it comes up. It's like Web Creators Group. That's the official Cadence group. They're like 100 and something people away from 10,000 members, and they'd love to break that this year. So if you're not a member of the Cadence Facebook group, highly recommended. Lots of great Cadence stuff there. Kathy Zant is in there all the time posting updates. Join that Facebook group if you're using Cadence, if you haven't already. They'd love to push that over 10,000. That'd be great. So this growth of Cadence, not only as a theme, but as an ecosystem of WordPress solutions for any kind, it's just absolutely amazing what's happened this year. Cadence Blocks has gotten 300,000 installs. Cadence ShopKit 2.0 was released this year. Cadence Elements Templates, which is incredibly powerful, was released this year. The Cadence Beat podcast was released. If you've never listened to that, it's a great podcast with Kathy Zant and Ben Rittner and Hannah Rittner. There's new blocks are continuing to be rolled out. New starter templates are happening. And also Cadence Blocks 3.0 is imminent. The beta is imminent. So the plan is to release the beta of Cadence Blocks 3 this month. Should be like imminent. It's coming very quickly. So this will feature a new block settings layout, totally revamped and improved the blocks UI to make it accessing settings easier. The settings won't be changed, but how you access them has changed. The Cadence team has worked with usability experts to streamline the process of doing dev work, and everything's just going to be easier to use. Here's a little snapshot that comes from the Cadence blog. There's a great article right here. If you haven't seen this yet, go to cadencewp.com/blog. You'll see right there what you can expect. The Cadence row layout is going to be using grid CSS. Or CSS grid, it's called sometimes. It's like, it's something, it's a collection of CSS that is something like Bootstrap, like something like that, right? It's a CSS library, CSS grid. If you're not familiar with it, it just gives you more flexibility. It's going to be great. And that's going to be incorporated into Cadence Blocks version 3. So here's how some of that stuff is going to look. There's also a new and completely revamped advanced form block. So the Cadence form block was okay. It was fine for a basic form. Now the new advanced form block is going to have its own custom post type. You'll be able to create a single form and use it in multiple places on your website. Each field in the form is its own block that can be moved around. That's kind of cool. Lots of new features, including a field date picker. It's just much, much better. You'll be able to import, export, and reset block defaults, so much more. Lots of other technical things I'm not going to take the time to go through. They are all there. You can see them in the slides. Cadence Block 3 is going to be a game changer, and I'm looking forward to playing with it. All right, let's turn the page to some e-commerce news. The WooCommerce Blocks 9.1 was released about a week ago on December the 9th. The WooCommerce Blocks plugin serves as a place to iterate and test new blocks. So WooCommerce Blocks is something like the WooCommerce equivalent of the Gutenberg plugin. If you install the WooCommerce Blocks plugin, what you're going to get is the development, just like the Gutenberg plugin brings the block editor development into your WordPress site. So you'll get the latest things. And then, they pick up the development in WooCommerce Blocks. They push it into core from time to time. So major new milestone here. There's a new product query powered products block that is rolled out in beta. You can arrange products by popular presets and set the grid. Here's what it looks like. It's really nice. It looks a lot like the standard post block, but you have a lot of other options here, like how you're going to arrange it, what stock statuses are we going to show, and so forth. So this is pretty cool. It's a long time coming, in my opinion, for WooCommerce. WooCommerce really playing catch up to the blocks game. But if you think about how many WooCommerce stores there are out there, trying to keep everything backwards compatible without breaking is a big deal. So they're moving slow, and they probably should. The new products block is based on that core query loop, which is why it looks kind of similar to what the regular query loop block looks like we just saw. They're aiming to replace all of the plugins' current product displaying blocks with this newly rolled out product block. It'll work with full site editing templates. It needs some polishing, but the basics are there. Pretty good stuff. They've also added what they've called 3 new product adjacent patterns. In other words, using some block patterns to display products or product information in an interesting way. So, for example, a WooCommerce alternating image and text block pattern. Here's what it looks like. So, back and forth, kind of, like a checkerboard. Image, text, text, image, back and forth down the page. That's kind of cool. They've also added a product hero 2-column, 2-row block pattern like this, 2 columns, 2 rows. I mean, it looks really ugly on this test, but you can kind of see the elements and how they're going to work. They've also added this just arrived full hero block pattern. So you can mark your product as just arrived, and it would pop in automatically there on your site. Pretty cool stuff. So all those block patterns have been added in this latest version of WooCommerce Blocks. They continue to iterate. Pretty good stuff. All right, let's look at some other news, things that hasn't fit anywhere else so far. This is interesting to me. This is a really interesting article in digitalmarketer.com talking about ad fraud. This is, one of the articles this month. If you were going to read anything, I would put this at the top of the list. This is an interesting article that teaches us all a lot about what's happening out there with ad fraud. The latest data indicates that ad fraud is going to cost 120 billion euro by 2023. That's a lot of money. Even big name companies like Uber, Procter & Gamble, and Verizon have been victims of significant ad fraud in recent years. So every ad company, no matter how big their size or budget, is just as at risk. So one of the things this article talks about is something called the meth bot, which is a bot that takes advantage of this ad fraud. And basically, here's how it works. In 2016, this fellow, who's a self-proclaimed king of fraud, was discovered to have been making between $3 and $5 million a day, do that math, by executing fake clicks on video advertisements. So basically what he would do, he'd do this. He'd set up a website, he'd put some ads out there, and then he set up bots to just hammer away at these ads and fool the ad networks into thinking it was legitimate ad click traffic. So it was a sophisticated botnet scheme, defrauding brands, enabling countless bots to watch 300 million video ads per day on over 6,000 spoofed websites. Amazing. Some of the victims were the New York Times, the New York Post, Comcast, and Nestle. In late 2021, Alexander Zukov was sentenced to 10 years in prison in order to pay over $3.8 million in restitution. I mean, that was a day's work for the guy. Whatever. But yeah, it's crazy. So that's out there. Those things are happening, and we need to be aware of that. We live in this space, and so being able to be conversant in this is helpful. It's a great read. Uber also was wasting, they wasted $100 million in ad spend. Matter of fact, Uber filed a lawsuit against 5 ad networks in 2019 and won. They claimed that its ads were not converting. Roughly 2/3 of its ad budget, $100 million, was not needed. That retargeting companies were abusing the system by creating fraudulent traffic, much like the previous example. The extent of the ad fraud was discovered when the company cut $100 million in ad spend and saw no change in the number of riders. Wow, that is nuts. Twitter also, Elon Musk, think what you will about him, claims the platform hosts a high number of inauthentic accounts, read fake bot accounts. He claimed that Twitter hid the real number of bots and fake accounts on its platform. He accused the company of fraud, previous regime of fraud, by alleging that these accounts made about 10% of Twitter's daily active users who see ads. That means that 65 million of Twitter's 229 million daily active users are not seeing ads at all. They're just bots. Really something. So 6 takeaways from this article. Nobody's safe from ad fraud. It's incredibly hard to detect manually. It wastes your budget, distorts your data, and prevents you from reaching goals. You're likely being affected even if you don't know it. You have options to fight, and the best option is to prevent ad fraud from the get-go, and we have to have the platforms do that. It really is something. So read that article. It's a really good read. I would encourage it. Something else that might deserve your attention over the next couple of weeks is please take the 2022 WordPress survey. They do this every year. They want everybody who uses WordPress to respond, whether you're a beginner, a professional, a user, a developer, whatever you are. Anyone who uses WordPress is encouraged to take this survey. It helps the WordPress community team make decisions for the coming year. It's open through the end of the year. Questions are like, why do you use WordPress? All the way through questions about top themes and plugins. The link is right there. Please do take that survey. Here's a really great little tool that you might want to spend some time with. Earlier this year, the WordPress themes team began urging theme authors to switch to locally hosted fonts. We talked about that here on the News Roundup. That was following the German court case that decided that Google hosted fonts violate the GDPR. So the maker of Fonts plugin, which is a commercial plugin that also has a free version, they created a free web-based tool to find out where your fonts are hosted. So right here, fontsplugin.com/Google Fonts Checker. Go there right now. You type in your website. It will tell you if your fonts are being pulled from Google or not. And that's just a great, it's a great little site audit test. Now, there's a plugin that does it too and all that, but that's just a site where you can go in and just drop in a URL, and it will tell you whether or not the site is doing local fonts or not. All right, yes, Cadence does have, Phoebe's mentioning in the chat, Cadence does have a setting under General and Performance to host Google Fonts locally, and that is true for any fonts Cadence and the block editor use. If you're using plugins or using a page builder or something, it might be pulling in fonts from other places. You just have to be aware of that. So Cadence doesn't take over and like pull everything. It pulls in its fonts that you use. So just be aware of that and develop wisely. So a lot of older themes and plugins still host are loading fonts from Google's. There's also an add-on plugin for Cadence that lets you host your own custom fonts, period. And it's really easy to use. Check all that out. There's a screenshot of the tool. Pretty nice. Something else to take a look at is the WP Awards have been given twice as many votes. Maybe you saw this come across your socials to go vote. We talked about it last month to go vote on the WP Awards site. Twice as many votes as last year. Really good stuff. The theme awards, Astra, Generate Press, and Cadence, 2 themes that have been around forever, and the brand new theme, Cadence, took bronze. So congratulations to Cadence there. As far as page builders, you've got Elementor, Gutenberg, Block, and the Bricks Builder were the 3 top page builders. In the forms category, Gravity Forms first, Fluent Forms second, with WP Forms behind them. In the dynamic data category, ACF Pro was the winner. Metabox got silver. Jet Engine took the bronze. In the block add-ons, Cadence Blocks were number 1. Congratulations, Cadence. Generate Blocks taking second, and Stackable was the third. In the backup and migration category, All-in-One Migration, Updraft Plus, and WP Vivid. In WordPress security, WordPress was on top. WordFence was on top. iTheme Security Pro took silver, and Malcare was third. In your SEO plugins, Rank Math was on top, followed by Yoast and then SEO Press. In the WordPress community category, my friends at the admin bar took number 1. If you're not part of the admin bar, you should be. It's one of the best WordPress communities out there for folks who build and manage sites. WP Tuts was second, and Post Status was third. So you can take a look at all the 24 categories and winners right there at wpweekly.com/awards-2022. All righty. This was a great story. There is a thing out there called ChatGPT. How many of you have seen this? ChatGPT is an AI that does lots of different things. So there's an interesting article here. This is another one that might be worth a read if you're intrigued by this. On WP Tavern, the ChatGPT AI creates a working WordPress plugin on the first try. For real. So it's past 1 million users. The language model, which is created by OpenAI, is a series of models trained on text and code. It has the ability to answer follow-up questions, admit mistakes, challenge incorrect premises, and reject inappropriate requests. There's a great potential for AI systems to fundamentally reshape the creation process. So WordPress developer Jonathan Williams asked ChatGPT to spin up a WordPress plugin. Here's what he said. Custom menu item, custom admin screen, saving a custom and validating the field before saving. He did a screenshot, or a video we'll show in just a second. He posted the output here that the AI did. Mixed results, but it worked. And it can only get better from here. So his prompt was create a custom WordPress plugin called Big Daddy Media that deletes images older than 1 year from the media library, OOP, which stands for Object-Oriented Programming, custom admin screen, 1 button delete, log the full URL of deleted media files. That's what he typed. And here's what happened. There's the user interface. There's the query we just read. All right. We're going to hit the button in a second. There it goes. Okay. So now the AI is doing its thing. It's writing the code. Y'all, look at this. It's writing commented code all by itself through magic. And there it is. Continuing on. Absolute amazement. And the code works. This is just one possible way to implement this plugin. You may need to modify. But look at that. You know, play with this thing, y'all, because, you know, what could you write? Like just spin up some code, like how this could replace all of your Googling for, you know, various things. Yeah, it writes JavaScript as well. It does all the things. So pretty cool. Matthew, yes, thank you. Regex. It could do regex. Heather, do we know if this information is recorded on their servers and may cause risk to someone who wants to own the rights to the plugin? Well, if the AI generates the plugin, you can't claim rights for it, right? I mean, I can't imagine you could. I don't know. I'm not sure. You'd want to research if it's stored there or what. But yeah, I don't think you'd want to use AI if you're wanting to develop something proprietary like this. That's my input. But wow, how cool is that? All right, moving along to another bit of news, unfortunate news. Airtable, which is a very popular cloud-based relational database, lays off over 250 employees. So December the 8th, they laid off 254 employees across their biz dev, engineering, and other teams. Airtable was last valued at $11 billion for its no-code software. They have invited these folks to use Airtable to search for jobs, which, okay. They also warn of more tech layoffs to come. It was announced alongside executive departures, so some big execs within the company moved on as well. The good news is they treated their employees pretty well. The employees who were laid off get 16 weeks of severance pay, which is nice. Something else that you probably are going to want to be aware of in accessibility news. The U.S. Department of Justice is going to resume filing federal web accessibility reports. So the DOJ plans to file its first report in a decade on the accessibility of federal government websites. This is a result of a bipartisan push in Congress because of the critical importance of accessible technology to millions of Americans with disabilities. Fantastic. The Senator Bob Casey also wrote to the DOJ in June, demanding they report on its compliance with accessibility standards. The DOJ added that it intends to submit the document in the coming weeks. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, federal agencies required to make their electronic and information technology accessible to people with disabilities. Despite the legal requirement, they're a decade late in filing their compliance report. No explanation given. The report showed that 30% of homepages did not pass the test across the federal government. 48% failed on at least one of their 3 most popular pages. Big deal, right? So this is going to continue to shape. And this may be, just the beginnings of some sort of federal law, federal clarifications about some of these accessibility standards. It's good stuff. I think more clarification can only be helpful. All right, let's look at our WP Acquisitions Watch. This was interesting news for the developer of the MailChimp for WordPress plugin. This is MC4, for WP, which you may be using on your site. There are over 2 million active installs. It's been downloaded 42 million times. The developer, Danny Van Kooten, he's ready to sell. He's asking 1.6 million euros for his plugin. Hey, you want to get rich? Go develop a plugin. You probably have to use more than AI to write it, though. This was built back in 2023. It wasn't an official MailChimp plugin, but it's much better, in my opinion, than the official MailChimp plugin. Just look at the reviews of each. This plugin is generating 36,000 euros a month in revenue. $36,000 a month in revenue. And he spends about 4 hours per month. So, you got a couple of VAs that cost him 2,000 euros a month. Do that math. Why is he selling? It's not his passion, he said. It never was, but he needed a tool and he built it, and he figured out others could use it too, and they could. He wants to work on lower level coding projects that don't have the pressure of millions of users. I can understand that. So good luck. I hope he gets a lot of money for that. His iTheme's buying it. I don't believe so. All right, let's wrap up here with some news that is worth a look, things that didn't fit anywhere else. This is a great article. The second article I would definitely recommend that you read. This is just a fun read. It's not necessarily tech related. It's just a fun read. 52 Things I Learned in 2022, published on Medium. Tom Whitwell learned some things. For example, the Chinese government has launched a crackdown on weird and ugly fonts. Interesting. Mark Jacobs and a Midwestern University have settled their legal battle after both trying to trademark the word "the." Using ellipsis in writing signifies the writer is Gen X or Boomer. I do that all the time. Who else uses ellipsis in their writing? ... It can be read as confusing, passive-aggressive, or even weirdly flirtatious to digital natives. I guess that means young people like my daughters. Whatever. Yeah, I do that a lot. And since I read that, I'm like, oh, now I'm self-conscious about it. Okay, some other interesting news articles this month. Now you've got the bundle. Here's how to get started. So for those of you that bought into the Cadence bundle at Black Friday, so many new Cadence users. It's awesome. There's a great video guide that was published. What about using that ChatGPT AI for content and SEO? There's some things you ought to know from Search Engine Journal. Really good article. This new WordPress sandbox project is out there. We talked about this a couple of months ago in the WordPress News Roundup. This is the WordPress in a browser tool. Remember we talked about that? Those of you maybe a couple of months ago. Run a whole version of WordPress with no server, just right inside your browser. It's available on, I believe it's on GitHub. You can download the things and even play with it if you'd like to. WP Tavern article talks about that. The block editor is coming to WordPress support forums. So that's interesting. How can we use the block editor in our support forums? What are carding attacks and how to prevent them? By 2024, online payment fraud will cost e-commerce businesses $25 billion in loss. Let's talk about carding attacks on iTheme's blog. And last of all, what about Google Analytics 4? July 2023, next year, just 7 months away. Google is sunsetting the Universal Analytics, and GA4 will be all that is available from Google. And we got a great article on the iThemes blog, as well as a great course from August this year with David Zimmerman, our SEO expert, talking about upgrading to GA4. All right, let's take a look at some WordPress community events. If you're not aware, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time, that's 1800 UTC, is the State of the Word. So Matt Mullenweg, the co-founder of WordPress, will be speaking, as he does every year, about the state of the word. He'll be in New York City and talk about what's going on in WordPress, what to watch out for, and so forth. If you'd like to stream that event live, you can do so on the WordPress YouTube channel at youtube.com/WordPress. You can see Matt and all of those things. We got planned WordCamps finally in person again in the US for 2023. WordCamp Birmingham, my WordCamp right here in Birmingham, Alabama, WP Y'all, as we call it, is the first weekend of February. I hope that some of you will come down and say hello. It'll be the first WordCamp of the year for next year. Tickets are now available at WPYall.com. WordCamp Phoenix is planned and ready to go for March, the end of March 24, 25, there in Phoenix, Arizona. WordCamp Buffalo, New York on May the 6th. WordCamp Montclair, New Jersey on June 24th. The WordCamp Community Summit is planned for the 2 days prior to WordCamp US. Both of those are in Washington, D.C. from August 22nd through the 26th. That's going to be a great event, WordCamp US in D.C. There are a number of global WordCamps also pending. This weekend is WordCamp Kolkata, that's West Bengal, India. WordCamp Cebu in the Philippines is in February. WordCamp Asia in Bangkok is on February 17th through 19th. WordCamp Switzerland in Merton is March 31 and April 1st. And WordCamp Europe in Athens, Greece is on June 8th through 10th of 2023. All right, that brings us to the end of this month's news roundup. Hopefully you've been intrigued by some things. I'm going to drop our slide link one more time in the chat. And we're going to wrap things up. Thanks for hanging out with me today for the last hour. Download those slides if you haven't already. I'm back tomorrow for members for office hours at 1 o'clock. Get those questions in, and I'll see you back here tomorrow on iThemes Training, where we go further together.